Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. Now that my two obligatory informative videos are done for the day, it's time to talk about current events in the online fitness community. And we're going to cover Athlean-X, Jeff Cavaliere today. And this time, I'm not going to be critical. He actually said some really smart stuff that I agree with. So let me put on my +5 hat of weaponsmithing, work on skill in my crafting a little bit, and let's talk about this. Oh, on a side note, because everyone asks every single day in my comments all these questions about Chris Jones, why he's not making videos, questions about his bulge. Since I mentioned that the other day, actually, Chris did reach out to me yesterday. He talked to me about what's going on, but here's the thing, guys. Y'all need to quit asking. I'm not divulging this guy's personal stuff. Chris has got some stuff going on. He is going to eventually make an announcement about it. Let the man relax. Let the man have his peace, and he'll tell you guys what's going on later. I'm not going to address it publicly, but yeah, he's got some stuff going on. I talked to him about it. It's going to be interesting. You know, you guys stay tuned to his channel for that. That's going to be some interesting stuff when he decides to reveal it. But in the meantime, leave the man alone. He's got some things going on in his life. All right? He'll get to making videos again when he gets around to it. It's okay. You guys can watch me until then. Now, on to Jeff Cavaliere. All right, guys, Jeff needed to redeem himself because, like I said before, you know, that stuff he said with all the Jesse stuff and the compensatory strength and making excuses for Jesse, claiming Jesse actually gained 20 pounds of muscle the right way, that Jesse's not weak, all this other nonsense. And here's the thing I'm going to say to all these butthurt fanboys out there. You guys need to stop being so emotionally attached to YouTubers. You know what? Every person on earth occasionally says some really stupid, moronic things. Me, Jeff, you, President, Stephen Hawking, everyone occasionally says some really stupid stuff. And just because you like that person and you generally like what they say, you agree with most of what they say, doesn't mean they don't make mistakes. Jeff really dropped the bomb with all that silly ass nonsense about 20 pounds of muscle gain and compensatory strength and all the excuses for Jesse. All right, Jesse has not been a successful muscle gain project. All right, and people say, well, he's training like an athlete. Athletes are supposed to be strong and explosive. He is neither. All right, I'm sorry, that's not the case. It would be fine if he weighed 155 pounds or whatever it is that he weighs. If he was actually strong and explosive, then you could say, well, you know, he is athletic. He's not, guys, he's weak. Without strength, there is no speed and power. All right, period. And if with no speed and power, you do not make for a great athlete. That's reality. That's reality. Now, on to the point. Jeff said athletes should be doing chin-ups to grow their biceps. That's my recommendation. And as the Hodge twins would say, man, look at the big brains on this dude right here. Big old veins throbbing on his brain like a big hard cock. That's what they would say. That's what they would say. Because he's right. He is right. And he said, you know, and it's kind of interesting because he goes, you know, I'm the first person to say, I like curls. I like recommending curls. I do curls. He always showing people doing curls. He does curls. You know, I think they're kind of a waste of time, but that's okay. That's because I look at the data, and I'm a person who wasted a lot of time on curls, and most of the time they did very, very little for my biceps. You know, they didn't. Not genetically blessed in the bicep department, and isolation movements aren't particularly a great way to build muscles. You know, and that's the points that he made with some of this was interesting. It's a lot of the stuff that I've been telling you guys a really long time. But that kind of comes to the other point of using compounds to build a muscle, because if a person says they're evidence-based, you know, they look at research, they look at studies, and that's where they draw a lot of their information, and then they apply it to the real world and check it with what happens in the real world and make the two work together. That's called evidence-based, right? Anyone who's an evidence-based practitioner who says that curls make your biceps grow faster than, say, lat pull downs, be like, where's your studies to prove that? Because there's plenty of studies. There's multiple studies showing the opposite. I have, as of yet, to see any credible studies showing that curls can actually make your arms grow faster than a lat pull down can. Right? If you go with the evidence, it seems to be the case that lat pull downs work just as good as curls do. On novices, intermediates, scholarship athletes, everyone. It's been tested on. Seems to work just as good. So we get over to the point of the chin-up. The chin-up's a very effective movement for the bicep. And the point that he made is that as an athlete, Yeah, you want muscles to grow. There are cases where you do want to grow a muscle. Maybe you're an athlete and you want to do it even for aesthetic purposes. But as an athlete, you need to be thinking in terms of movement patterns, not body parts. Isn't that what I tell you guys too? I say that same thing, guys. Movement patterns. Don't worry about body parts, worry about movement patterns. And if you have a deficient body part, you're probably weak at one of the basic movement patterns, right? In other words, muscular imbalances also go hand in hand with strength imbalances. That's the way it tends to work. Because what you think of as classic aesthetics, going back to the Greek statues and everything else, we're very athletic, very functional people. That's where muscle balance comes from. Now, a lot of aesthetics is structural based, it's insertion based, but overall muscle balance comes with a result of having a balanced strength, right? Balanced strength on all the basic movement patterns. You don't have any strength deficiencies. If you don't have strength deficiencies, you're going to have significant hypertrophy and a reasonable balance in the body. Right? That's where the idea comes from. And he's right. Athletes need to be thinking in terms of movement patterns, and athletes need to be thinking in terms of working lots of muscles at once. In other words, if you have something that's deficient, you find a movement pattern that works that area and just get really strong and do a lot of workload on that movement pattern to balance it back out. He pointed out, chin-ups. Chin-ups recruit the biceps just as effectively, if not better, than almost any bicep exercise you can find. That's pretty well confirmed in the scientific literature, right? Not just confirmed in the studies, it's confirmed if you understand basic physiology. Basic physiology. That happens to be the case. In addition to the fact that it works the lats, the rear delts, a lot of other muscles, you can bring up a lot of muscles at once. And as he points out, again, if you've got multiple muscles you need to bring up, same thing I say, why would you sit there and isolate one? Because now you got to go isolate everything. You got 3 different muscles that you know are lagging behind. You should probably find an exercise that works all 3 and just hammer the crap out of that exercise. That should be common sense. Because people have these, well, you're going to miss this plane in this angle. That's not reality, guys. That comes from the drug-abusing competitive bodybuilding world that's not based on reality. Right, that's not based on reality. That also comes with selling complicated programs, because the human body really isn't that complicated to where you need that many complex exercises, particularly for people who aren't really advanced athletes. I'll be honest with you guys. If you guys do not have an enormous base, you're not already an advanced athlete of some type, you could probably make maximum muscle growth through your entire body off 6, 7, 8 different exercises, maybe 10. That's all you probably need. Again, it comes back to movement patterns, and as he pointed out, the chin-up is an extremely effective exercise because it moves the body through space. And he said, weighted body weight exercises, people forget they're not just body weight. You have the ability to load them. And that's true. Again, we come back to the point I always make. Most of your exercises should be, what you're looking for is either a heavy barbell movement, an exercise that you can load that moves the body through space. And a squat is a perfect example. A barbell squat is a weighted body weight exercise, right? Just like a weighted chin-up or a weighted dip, it's a weighted body weight exercise. Well, so is a squat. So is a deadlift. Those are just normal movement patterns that you would do standing on your feet or pushing or pulling around in your environment, where you can add weight to your body weight. And those exercises tend to be very, very effective. Right? And I always say exercises where you're standing on your feet, ideally. That's really where the bulk of your training needs to be if you are trying to build maximum athleticism to go with your muscle mass. That's what you need to be doing. But exercises that move the body through space tend to allow maximum stimulation of all the primary movers, but they bring other stabilizers in. The weighted chin-up is a particularly good exercise. I'm a big fan of the weighted chin-up, and I'm glad Jeff actually said that. Because, the chin-up is tied up there. It's among the top 3 to 5 exercises you could do for your biceps. But because it's a weighted body weight exercise and it has a very long range of motion, the chin-up works a hell of a lot of muscles. It is a very effective, very functional exercise because it can build enormous amounts of muscle on your biceps, your lats, your rear delts. But if you think about all the other stabilizers that get used in it, and there's pretty good data on this because of the stretch you get. As he pointed out, you know, it tends to be easy on the shoulder joints, but that stretch at the bottom, because of that, it tends to work the long head of the tricep, and that's the one head of the tricep that tends to get a little bit neglected on bench presses and things, right? It's that one head a lot of guys have lagging. The long head actually gets activated at the stretch of the bottom of a chin up, and it helps you get that weight moving out of the bottom. So if you're doing a full deep stretch, you're bringing the long head in. The upper chest actually gets stimulated and worked. Again, there's EMG data showing that actually your upper chest gets worked. Again, how many guys out there chasing a bigger upper chest? A lot of guys. That's a deficient area for a lot of guys, particularly guys not using drugs, because that area tends to be heavily stimulated by the drugs themselves and steroid users. So natural guys, that can be a real weak point. Well, the weighted chin up helps bring that in also. The abdominals, it lights up the abdominals on every EMG study I've ever seen. Chin-ups light it up as much as a crunch does. So it is actually almost a direct exercise for your abs as well. So when you start looking at that, you okay, yeah, it's an amazing bicep exercise, it's an amazing lat exercise, but it works the rear delts, the traps, the upper chest, the long head of the triceps, the abs. And a lot of those muscles, it works enough that it creates significant muscle growth. In addition to the fact that it's training you to move your body through space. All right, it is an amazing exercise. The chin-up should be, the weighted chin-up particularly, should be in pretty much everybody's program, right? It is almost, I would consider to be a borderline essential exercise, kind of like the barbell squat. Maybe not as important as a barbell squat, but the weighted chin-up is very much up there. And it's an exercise I think everybody could benefit from. And Jeff is absolutely right on this, because you're not going to find anything better for your biceps, and it brings all this other stuff to the table. And again, it comes back to that point. You might have muscles you want to bring up, but it's oftentimes how efficient are you bringing them up in terms of your overall program? Are you bringing something else to the table with your training for that body part besides it just growing that body part? A chin-up's an example of it bringing a lot to the table. It brings a lot to the table in addition to just being a bicep exercise. So yeah, he's absolutely right, particularly when talking about athletes need to worry more about movement patterns than training body parts. And again, that's a point I cover all the time. So yeah, in this case, I'm not going to pick on Jeff. Jeff got it right. I agree with him. This was a very smart video, possibly the best video of his that I have ever seen. And it almost makes up for that stupid crap about Jesse. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.